Here's my new to me. It's a Tracker 2003 Tracker 2072 blind duck. It's on a very nice aluminum trailer. Just going to give you a quick walk around and show you everything I did to it to change it from basically a bass setup to a duck setup, which is, one of its uses here. So there's the outside. There's the interior, pretty bright sun, hope you can see okay. So first had this sent from Georgia. The motor is a 2003 Mercury Tracker, 60 horsepower 2-stroke with the VRO pump, so the fuel and oil are separate. I installed a transom bracket or transom saver just to hold up the weight of the motor. The motor had to go to the shop. It was not running or turning over at all. It turned out it had a bad solenoid and had the carburetors were all gummed up and jets plugged, so I had the carburetors all cleaned, new spark plugs, new fuel filter, new impeller, gear, oil, lubricants were all changed. Also, the gas tank was kind of in bad shape. It was that far one over there. The seal was bad, so I replaced the seal, and I got a new cap with a proper gasket so it wouldn't get water in it. I also bought a second tank. Those are both 9-gallon tanks, and I put those in there and installed this aluminum angle down there just to kind of hold them in place, keep them from shifting around, keep them forward a little bit. Also had to get a new gas line. The other one was just been sitting out for a couple years and in bad shape. And I installed this fuel water separator just to hopefully keep me from getting stranded. The steering was completely seized. This stiff steering cable was back here under this, where it goes through the tilt tube here, was completely seized. So I had to take it all apart, pound it out with a hammer and a punch. Then I cleaned it with a wire brush and some penetrating catalyst and carburetor cleaner with a wire brush that I used for a shotgun, actually 12 gauge. It fit in there perfect. Scrubbed it all out, cleaned off the steering cable, and now it turns really smoothly, thank goodness. See here, I installed, this is a shallow water anchor, so basically I just take a piece of a 3-inch MT, something like this. I got a 10-foot length right over there, and you just stick it down in this shallow water anchor, so it just sticks in the mud and holds you in place. That's in the back of the boat here. It has this pop-up blind, so these are all, and this is my blind material that's just kind of connected to the pop-up blind, and this thing just raises up and you can hide in there, keep you from seeing from the ducks. I painted that with a marine aluminum, special paint to keep it, so it wouldn't flake off. All the rod holders, had a lot of rod holders around the boat, and I took all of those off because there's kind of in the way for duck hunting. And also took the trolling motor off of the front and got that out of the way, and put in some new mooring ropes all the way around. So let's go up toward the front. So this is just more of the blind material. Here's just the rest of the blind. I painted it again. Up front I took the trolling motor off and I installed this 20-inch LED light bar just using some aluminum angle. Mounted it there. It's really bright, and the wire just goes in here. It's pretty simple. The trailer wires didn't make the trip. They were just completely frayed, and lights were not working on either back light, so I had to rewire the trailer completely, which was a pain in the butt, but it's doable. The spare had a bad valve stem, so the valve stem had to be replaced, and it only had one bolt holding it on to the mounting bracket, so I added a second bolt, stainless steel with nylock nuts, so it won't come off there. In California you have to have a winch strap to hold the boat, but you also need something secondary, so I installed this chain just hooked to the bow eye to keep the boat from sliding off. If one should fail, there's a backup. With this tongue support, I added a wheel to it, give me a little bit more height. Up front, here's another one of these shallow water anchors, which so I can anchor the boat in the front and back and keep it from spinning, and I can keep it oriented the way I want. This is just a little portable gas tank for my kicker motor, which I don't know, I'll find a better place for that. I just bungeed it right there for the time being. Come around this way. There's my kicker, just a little 4-stroke 6 horsepower Tohatsu kicker. And installed new LED lights. I don't think I'm going to be happy with them down there, but it was just quick and I was under a little bit of a time pressure because tomorrow's the first day of goose season. So I just stuck those down there where they're mounted easily, but I'm probably going to run them up to the top of this trailer guide so that they never get underwater, because even though they say submersible, they don't, it's not exactly foolproof. So here we are in the boat itself. It's, as you can see, it's pretty wide. It's 7'4" from gunnel to gunnel, and the bottom is 6 foot. Let me show you what I've done back here. Start from the back of the boat. So again, the gas tanks, the fuel water separator, none of the electronics were working in the boat. They just have been sitting out a couple years and just didn't work. So there's a bilge pump and a aerator, which had to do new wiring. You can see I got some nice split loom where I consolidated all the wires. It was a bit of a mess back here before, so now it's clean and neat. And I ran the split loom and those wires all the way around the corner, and back here where this yellow tag is, that light was not working, so I had to redo the wiring for that too, and I just contained it all in the split loom, and it just goes up to the dash. Then let me show you this. Took out the starter battery, didn't really need it, and since I took out the trolling motor, I converted the trolling motor batteries, just these deep cycle ones, which it doesn't take much to start this 60 horsepower, so deep cycle works just fine for starting it. And they were wired in series to give you 24 volts, but I rewired them in parallel, so I got 2 batteries producing 12 volts. And the Perco switch that was in here was all busted and no good and not working right, so I installed a new Blue Sea Systems big main power switch, which works perfect now. And these wires here actually go to a built-in charger, so that's good. I can just plug the boat in rather than having to get the charger out every time. It's kind of built in right here. All I do is bring my extension cord and plug it in, and I can charge my batteries up. Doesn't take too long. Anyway, so redid all the wiring completely, and here you sit down in the console. It had a lot of stuff here. It had like a compass, which is like, good grief, who needs a compass? Maybe in 2003, but I got rid of that since everybody's got GPS on their phone now. Has some other switch panel, which, like I did when I redid all the switches, all the electronics, I just got rid of that. I'll probably just replace it with an RPM gauge soon. And instead I installed a switch panel out here, which is couldn't get this to fit on the dash, so I put it over here on the side, which is fine, which means I can actually reach things when I'm out and about in the boat without having to come to the back of the dash. So I have my LED bar, my running lights, my bilge pump, my aerator, a depth finder, and then I got one more that I can use. I think I'm going to install a cabin light, just so I can have a little light in here when I want to. These are my 3/4 inch EMT 10-foot links that I use for shallow water anchoring. I just slide them in those anchors. Here's some storage on the side. This is for rods. You can put a rod and reel in there, and then the tip of your reel goes up through here, so it can fit in there and keeps it dry and clean and safe and from bouncing around the boat. course it fits a shotgun too. I got a lot of my duck hunting stuff in here, binoculars, tools, and gloves, and some more, a lot of my tools and stuff are in there just for safety, and the lights are in there too. The run lights, that is. There's the front of the boat. It doesn't have a lot of storage. Got this one little thing up here under all this bow, which when you have the blind installed, you can't even really open it all the way. So I just stuck a wind duck decoy in there. Can't get much else in there right now with the setup. This burlap is wrapped around some 2x2 poles, which I just use for additional camouflage. Here, sorry, just kind of spinning around. This is just a garbage can. I got my geese in there. Put that back up later. And this just has some more storage, dry storage. Here's actually the live well, which I don't plan on using, not for duck hunting, but I got a few decoys and some other stuff in there that's just, can be stored pretty easily. And let's see, what else have I done. Just got life jackets and cushions and stuff in there, and up under there is where that charger is that's built in. On the boat, I guess it, big flat bottom like this mounts around. I don't know if you can see over here, but where this sidewall mounts to the hull, many of these welds were just broken. So I went back and put in a bunch of rivets. Of course, I had to rivet it through the hull, but it's up pretty high, so it shouldn't make it leak or anything. Down in here, where the sidewall, connects to the seat, right in here, I had to put in rivets. This was all these welds and rivets that were in there were completely busted. And a lot of things down here. That all of this was completely disconnected. I had to put in some more rivets there. Kind of all along, the seat was just basically separated from the boat. Same thing over here. You can see where this had been. Someone had screwed in stuff and tried to mount it, but all this was busted. So I ended up having to put in a bunch of rivets to kind of reconnect this. Same thing everywhere. The subfloor was basically just floating in here and completely, broken and become separated from the hull itself. Up here, this whole thing is all, I don't know if you can see, but I had these original welds, these angles that were connecting this to the subfloor, just broken completely and gone. So I replaced them with some aluminum angle. This should make the boat a little more sturdy and stiff. Just, not any one of these things in particular, but the whole thing in general. Again, like in here, I've got a lot more rivets up in here that connect this box to the sidewall, because first of all, the box had broken apart from the sidewall, and the sidewall had broken apart from the hull, so it was just a rickety, shaky mess. I'm sure it's just from bouncing. These flat bottoms have a pretty rough ride in water, so it makes sense that stuff would break apart eventually. So I put it all back together with just rivets, and none of those penetrate the hull, so it shouldn't cause a problem. The boat had a whole lot of rod holders, which I removed. For example, this whole gun storage, rod storage box just had rod holders all along the side, and I just took them all out of there because I just don't need them. They're just in the way. And I think that's about it. Pretty bright. I don't know how much you can see in these shadows, but it's ready to go. Tomorrow's the first day of the early goose season. California has generous seasons and limits for waterfowl, and everything's pretty much ready to go. I do need to see on this side of the boat, it has this aluminum that kind of consolidates wires and stuff that are behind there. On this side, I removed it so that I could redo all the wiring, so I forgot to reinstall it, but that's pretty easy to do. It won't take me 15 minutes, but I don't have time to do it today. So I'll redo it another day and it won't matter, and go hunting with it just like it is. And yeah, that's it. I'm pretty excited. Love this boat. It's going to be good for me out on the water if I can get nice and shallow and get in there for some ducks. Oh, one more thing I was going to show you. Registration. Here is the new, registered in California. It's official. Everything's all good to go. 20 foot long. Wish me luck.